Cactuars are among the most distinct of Final Fantasy's recurring creatures. Diminutive and evasive, they can be hard to find, but make it worth the player's time to track them down. The Japanese name for cactuar is sabotender, a combination of the Japanese word for cactus, saboten, and the English word pretender. Their English name is a direct translation of this idea, being a combination of the words cactus and liar. Some games call them cactuars, a reference to their signature running pose, and others retain their Japanese name. The cactuar was designed by Tetsuya Nomura, based on a doodle he had done in high school. They are visually based on hanawa, small clay sculptures that were used for funerary purposes in Japan during the Kofun period, spanning approximately from the 3rd to the 6th century AD. The name hanawa means circle of clay, referring both to how they were sculpted and how they were used. The figures were molded as coils of clay were built up on top of each other, and the resulting figures were placed in a circle above burial mounds for the nobility. Hanawa took many different forms, including humans, animals, and inanimate objects, but some of the most iconic depictions are of humanoid figures with blank eyes, large mouths, and one arm bent up and one bent down. In Final Fantasy, cactuars have a very simple design that has varied little since their introduction. They are small humanoid cacti, bright green with black eyes, a wide open mouth, and 3 spines on their head. Their iconic pose depicts them bent forward in a running position, with one leg bent back and one bent up and forward, and their forward arm bent up and their back arm bent down. Some games depict cactuars as having limited range of movement in their arms and legs, only able to change the angle of the limbs or rotate them at the body, and doing so in a stiff, almost robotic manner. Despite their seemingly limited mobility, they are able to move freely and are often quite fast. Cactuars have many variants. The most common of these is the gigantar, or jumbo cactuar. As its name implies, it is a massive cactuar, and sometimes has a mustache. There are also metal cactuars, which are metallic silver and gold, and flowering cactuars, which possess a cactus flower on their head. These variants are sometimes combined, such as metallic gigantars. In both the English and Japanese games, cactuar variants have their names misspelled to distinguish them from normal cactuars. English names may use a K or Q instead of a C, while in the Japanese they have names such as jabotender or sapotender. While many of the same puns are used throughout the franchise, they do not parallel each other consistently. For example, the English name for the Japanese sapotender has been cactuar king, flowering cactuar, and more in different games. Note that because these differences in spelling may not be apparent from the pronunciation of the names, it may be helpful to turn on subtitles for this video. The cactuar's signature attack is 1000 needles, where they fire a barrage of needles at a target. The attack deals exactly 1000 damage, and often cannot be mitigated or evaded, and is sometimes available to learn by blue mages. As a stylistic effect, some games depict the attack as dealing multiple hits of minor damage that add up to 1000. There are many variants of 1000 needles, usually dealing damage in multiples of 100 or 1000, but the most common is 10,000 needles. This attack is sometimes designated with a question mark, as depending on the game, it may break the damage cap to actually deal 10,000 damage, or it may deal 9,999 damage. Some games have an even more powerful attack, 100,000 needles, which follows the same naming trend as 10,000 needles, where it may bear a question mark or have the number reduced by 1. Aside from 1000 needles and its variants, cactuars do not have a large move pool, but are associated with abilities themed around speed and evasion. These include haste, slow, vanish, and status ailments that make it more difficult for the party members to attack them, like confuse, blind, and silence. Cactuars are very elusive. Aside from being rare enemies in the first place, they can be difficult to encounter and will run from the party in the field, and then flee from battle if caught. In battle they have high speed and evasion, allowing them to dodge most normal attacks, and they may also possess extremely high defense. To offset this, they typically have low HP for the point in the game they are encountered, so the player can defeat them simply with the right tactics. Hunting cactuars is a worthwhile effort. While the specifics vary, they often yield a very large amount of experience, money, and/or ability points or equivalent mechanic, which makes them useful for level grinding. They may also drop valuable items, such as cactus flowers or needles. Cactuars are not usually given much story role, but often feature in side quests. Most games imply they have at least some degree of intelligence and sapience, and on occasion they have been known to form their own societies. Many games allow the cactuar to be acquired as a summoned monster, where it can use variants of 1000 needles to deal fixed damage to enemies. The cactuar is overall one of the most iconic and recognizable monsters in Final Fantasy, comparable to the Moogle, Chocobo, and Tonberry. For this reason, spin-off games and crossovers with other franchises often feature the cactuar prominently. Cactuars also have a large variety of merchandise, both in the real world and in numerous games. Cactuars first appeared in Final Fantasy VI, and were known as Cactuars in the original Super NES localization. They appear in the world of Ruin in the desert south of Miranda and have single-digit HP, but high evasion and near-perfect defense. They will take a turn to bundle 1000 needles, and after several turns use 1000 needles 10 times in a row, a precursor to 10,000 needles. Cactuars give 10 AP and 10,000 gil when defeated, making them the best source of AP in the game. In the Game Boy Advance and 2014 mobile versions, the Gigantar can be encountered in the desert as a boss, and when defeated it yields the Cactuar Magicite. The Magicite teaches Teleport, Vanish, and Haste-Ga, and gives a +2 boost to speed on level up. This makes it extremely useful when level grinding, as previously the only other Magicite to give a speed boost was Odin. When summoned, the Magicite will randomly conjure the Gigantar or a normal Cactuar, which use 10,000 and 1,000 needles, respectively. Final Fantasy VII has the Cactuar and the Cactuar. The Cactuar is actually the real Cactuar, with the Japanese name Sabotender, while the Cactuar was originally Sapotender. Cactuars appear in the desert around Coral Prison, and are a rare encounter that drop a large amount of gil. Cactuars are primarily found on an island in the southern part of the world map. They yield a large amount of AP and can be morphed into Tetra Elementals, a rare and useful accessory. When playing the snowboarding minigame's time attack mode, a ghostly Cactuar appears running down the course as the opponent to beat. Cactuars appear in Crisis Core with 4 variants, in order of power: the Cactuar, the Cactuar, the Cactuar, and the Cactuar. Each has low HP but high defenses and evasion, and can use 1000 needles or its stronger variants. Cactuars only appear in missions, and yield a large amount of SP relative to other enemies of comparable power. In Mission 313, if the player defeats the Cactuar, they will unlock a chain of missions that reward the Cactus Thorn item, which adds the Cactuar to the digital Mind Wave during Chocobo mode. The Cactuar's summon attack deals 18 hits of damage to an enemy, with fixed power depending on the level of the attack. Cactuars also appear in Dirge of Cerberus, and reward a large amount of experience, but are difficult to shoot before they vanish. In Final Fantasy VII Remake, Cactuars are summoned by the fat Chocobo's Moogle companion during the VR boss battle against them. For this reason the Cactuar gives no rewards, and will quickly flee if it appears. The challenge is to assess them for the bestiary before they flee. The Cactuar summon materia is DLC that was initially available as a pre-order bonus. Their sole ability is 1000 needles, dealing fixed damage and inflicting poison and slow. Their finisher is 10,000 needles, which hits all enemies. Final Fantasy VIII is the original appearance of the Gigantar, localized as Jumbo Cactuar. Cactuars appear in the Kashkabalda Desert as a rare encounter, but are more common on an island near the Centra continent. They give a large amount of AP, but will flee from battle if not killed quickly. The Jumbo Cactuar is visible on the overworld as a cactus moving around the island, and engages the party when approached. It can fall on the party to damage them, and use 10,000 needles. When weak it will attempt to flee, and players are given a warning to rush it down before it can. When defeated, they acquire the Cactuar Guardian Force. The major boon it offers comes with 5 stat bonus passive abilities, making it very useful for training up party members. When summoned it uses 1000 needles, but this is misleading. The Cactuar will deal 100 damage times the 10th digit of its level, up to 10,000 damage at level 100. This makes it one of the few abilities in the game that can break the damage cap. Both the Cactuar and Jumbo Cactuar have triple triad cards, and they can be farmed for Cactus Thorns. Note that although Quistis is a blue mage, 1000 needles is not available as blue magic. Cactuars in Final Fantasy IX have different behaviors than usual. They hide underground and will counterattack if attacked in this state, with attacks that include Confuse and 1000 needles. They will not counterattack when above ground, providing a safe opening to defeat them, but they can be damaged and killed in either state. They appear on the Outer Continent and the Forgotten Continent in up to groups of 4, and reward a large amount of experience and AP. Quina can eat a cactuar to learn 1000 needles as blue magic. Final Fantasy X gives cactuars their own society. Deep in the desert on Bikanel Island, a village of cactuars exists, hidden away from human eyes. In order to reach the village in Final Fantasy X, the player has to examine a rock with a cactuar carved on it to hear a verse about one of the 10 gatekeepers who guard the entrance to the village. One by one, the player must find them in the desert and play a game of red light green light with them, sneaking up on them when their back is turned. If they succeed, they battle the cactuar and receive a spear from it. When all 10 gatekeepers have been dealt with, the player can take their spears back to the rock, and a sandstorm in a valley beyond will subside, revealing the home of the cactuars. Cactuars can be found in abundance in this area, and a chest contains the Mercury sigil for Riku's celestial weapon. A lesser variant, the cactuar, appears in the Thunder Plains. According to a book in the nearby travel agency, the cactuars come from the Jose continent and were herded to the Thunder Plains by High Summoner Gandalf, where he sealed them in stone. The player can find these stones and pray to them, and after praying to 3 of them, a cactuar ghost will appear and lead them to Kamari's celestial weapon. Praying to the stones also causes cactuars to start appearing as random encounters in the Thunder Plains. Both cactuars and cactuars have low HP, but are very evasive and hard to hit, and have impenetrable magic defense and the armored status to reduce damage. Both are also liable to flee when low on health. Cactuars can use 10,000 needles, while the weaker cactuar uses 1,000 needles. The monster arena has the Cactuar King as a boss, available to fight after capturing all fiends in the Thunder Plains. It counters all damage with 10,000 needles, and on its own turn can use 99,999 needles. Final Fantasy X-2 considerably expands on the cactuars, naming their civilization the Cactuar Nation. It also reveals the life cycle of cactuars. They are born normal cacti, become cactuars after a certain period of time, and then become immobile and revert to normal cacti, but are still able to communicate. The queen of the cactuars is Marnella, whose name means grandmother in the cactuar language. The cactuars have established diplomatic relations with the Al Bhed excavating Bikanel, and a young boy named Benzo acts as a de facto ambassador since only he can understand the cactuar language. The cactuars ask for the Gullwings to aid against a dangerous fiend that they sealed under the desert long ago, and they must find the 10 gatekeepers across Spira to return to the Cactuar Nation and create a barrier to defend their home from fiends. With 9 of the gatekeepers found, the 10th is revealed to have fallen in with a group of rogue cactuars, and the other 9 unseal a cave they're hiding in, the Cactuar Hollow. Though Yuna subdues the gatekeeper, the other rogue cactuars merge into the Jumbo Cactuar. When it is defeated, the 10 gatekeepers recreate the barrier that defends the Cactuar Nation, sending fiends scattering. But Marnella uses up her power in the process and reverts to a normal cactus. Despite this, the powerful fiend they had sealed is released, Angra Manu, and it attacks the Al Bhed and must be destroyed. Final Fantasy XI is a departure from the norms of cactuars. They have more humanoid proportions, and the family of enemies is known by the name Sabotenders in English, of which cactuars are a member. They can use 1,000 needles and stronger variants that deal damage in multiples of 1,000, and the damage is split evenly among all targets in the attack's area of effect. Variants of the cactuar include the Catrat Rapido, the Cactuar Cantator, Quigatender, and numerous other types that use Spanish terminology, such as the Sabotender Amante and Sabotender Mariachi. They are notable for dropping cactus stems, which can be grown as a source of adamant ore, a valuable crafting material. Cactuars do not exist in Final Fantasy XII. Instead, there are 2 similar but separate creatures, the Cactite and the Cactoid. They are low-level enemies found throughout the Dalmasca Ester Sand and Dalmasca Wester Sand, and the flowering Cactoid can be fought in a hunt and has the Cactuar's trademark 1,000 needles attack. The player receives a cactus flower for defeating it, which is used to make medicine for an ailing patient in the village in the Ester Sand. When the player crosses the river to the north side of the village, they find the villagers there have been taken hostage by a family of cactoids. The matriarch of the family is searching for her missing son, and in the course of the conversation it becomes apparent the flowering cactoid was the cacti in question. The party finds the discarded cactus flower has regrown into the flowering cactoid, and they take it back to its family. In the sequel Revenant Wings, the Cactuar is a summon that uses 1000 needles as its attack, but it does not deal fixed damage as usual. In Final Fantasy XIII, Cactuars are rare enemies found on the Arclight Steppe on Pulse. Unlike most enemies, they flee from the party in the field and have to be chased down. If not attacked, they will use Cactus Stance to grow into the giant Cactuar, and then grow further into Cactuar Prime. The flowering Cactuar can be found in the Fault Warrens, and has less HP but unleashes a furious barrage of powerful magic before fleeing. As a Seized Stone mission, the party can face the Gigantor, which can use 10,000 needles. A dummied enemy exists in the game data, the Gigantor Prime. It would have appeared in the 7th arc, an optional dungeon intended to be released as DLC that never occurred, but fragments of it remain in the game data. The model for Gigantor Prime is untextured, but can be distinguished from the normal Gigantor by its mustache. In 13.2, Cactuars and the flowering Cactuar return on the Arclight Steppe, which is much larger than in the first game. To better navigate the steppe, 5 waystones in the shape of Cactuars allow the party to teleport between areas. The steppe also hosts 3 stones that initiate fights with Gigantars, which must all be defeated to open a time gate to Vile Peaks 200 AF. A new variant of Cactuar can be found on the steppe, the Cacturoni, which is white. 2 flowering variants can be recruited into the Paradigm Pack. The Cacturina is found in New Bodom, and the white Cacturama is found in the Dying World 700 AF. The Dying World is also home to the Metallic Cactuar, a Cactuar variant that resists all elemental damage and status ailments. Finally, space-time distortions on the steppe can spawn a rare and powerful monster, the Metal Gigantor. It reuses the dummied model of Gigantor Prime from the first game, now textured in metallic silver. All variants of the Cactuar can be recruited into the Paradigm Pack. Shared traits among the Cactuars is low HP but high casting speed. Their feral links variably inflict status ailments or deal multiple attacks by dancing or shooting needles, and Cacturama is notable for its feral link granting the re-raise status, the only way in the game to cast it on the party. In Lightning Returns, Cactuars appear across the Dead Dunes. They retain Cactus Stance, but it now grants them stat buffs rather than enlarging them. Killing 30 Cactuars exterminates them, causing the Cactuar Omega to spawn as the last of the species. A unique variant, the Cactuar, is found in the Dead Dunes in a sandstorm on the way to the Oasis Lighthouse. This version is distinguished by its afro, as it holds one of the soul fragments of Saz's son, Dodge. The Cactuar only takes a single point of damage from all attacks, so the player must whittle it down in a battle of attrition. A falsely named Cactuar is mentioned in the tie-in book Fragments before. Snow encountered it with no memories and it thought it was a normal Cactuar. Snow tries to return it to a herd of Cactuar but they reject it, and the Cactuar accompanies Snow. The two eventually fall into a time gate and arrive in the Colosseum, where it regains its memories. A temporal distortion shows them visions through time, including Sarah's death, and Snow asks Cactuar to grant him a l'Cie to fight with Sarah again. The Cactuar fallacy seemingly went dormant or was destroyed between games, as a statue in Yusnan in Lightning Returns was built by Snow in memory of it. Final Fantasy XIV refers to Cactuars as both Cactuars and Sabotenders, and reuses the naming scheme from Final Fantasy XI of referring to them with Spanish terms. Their design is also similar to XI, but striking the iconic Cactuar pose. A boss, the Sabotemba Imperatriz, can be fought in the hard version of the Sunken Temple of Khan. The boss could use 100,000 needles, which has a long charge time but will wipe out all party members if not interrupted. It spawns lesser Sabotenders to aid it, and both the Imperatriz and its allies can use needle attacks in multiples of 1,000. A Sabotender named Senor Sabotender acts as the mascot of the Gold Saucer, and the saucer features Cactuar imagery and terminology throughout its attractions. A mount called Saboteur Emperador can be won at the Gold Saucer, and is based on Senor Sabotender. The Endwalker expansion introduces a new subvariant of Cactuar, the Lunatender, which lives on the moon. They are silvery blue and have elongated limbs, making them resemble stereotypical grey aliens. A rank A elite mark can be fought on the moon, the Lunatender Queen. Her attacks are phrased like commands the player must obey to avoid being damaged, but she may use Wicked Whim to invert the commands. If players repeatedly disobey her, they are punished by her ultimate attack, 990,000 needles. A flowering Lunatender called the Prince Lunatender and a golden flowering variant called the Royal Lunatender can be acquired as minions. In Final Fantasy XV, Cactuars are a rare spawn in the regions of Lade, Duscae, and Clane, and can also be fought in timed quests. They can attack with fixed damage in multiples of 100 and inflict poison, and are very quick and evasive and reward a great deal of experience. Aside from the normal Cactuar, Slaktars also appear, which are a more pale shade of green and inflict confuse instead of poison. The Gigantar is fought as a mark for a hunt, and has higher damage attacks. There were also several types of Cactuar fishing lures in various colors and sizes, and the Gigantar lure bears a curled mustache. A side quest has the party collecting Cactuar figurines for Talcott. Cactuars have appeared in many other Final Fantasy games, as enemies, as summons, and as allies in some other capacity. Many games have them as opponents to fight to farm points to power up the party or crafting materials. For example, Final Fantasy Record Keeper has Cactuars as opponents in festival dungeons. Opera Omnia has them to fight for crystals and as hunts to earn reward tokens. And in Mobius Final Fantasy, their cards can be used to increase the rate at which jobs and abilities level up. Depending on the game, Cactuars can appear with metal or golden variants, which may be flowering or giant-sized. Final Fantasy Type 0 features a Cactuar wearing a cape that appears around Academia. According to the manga The Ice Reaper, Instructor Kurosame was one of 4 champions of Rubrum, and one of them kept a pet Cactuar in the same manner as Kurosame has a pet Tonberry. Though the Cactuar's owner was killed as a traitor, their Cactuar still wanders the grounds. If found, it drops a random item, many of which are rare and valuable. In Final Fantasy Dimensions, Cactuars are accompanied by the Cactuar King and the Super Cactuar. Along with rewarding a lot of AP, they drop cactus needles, which are needed for a side quest. The Gigantar is a super boss found in the Gladiator's Hall. It can use 1,000 needles and 10,000 needles, and drops Moogle coins when defeated. World of Final Fantasy features Cactuars as mirages that can transform into Gigantars, and there are also Cactrots and Gigantrots. The difference between them is that Cactrots use 1,000 meedles, which deals damage randomly among multiple targets. A Cactuar conductor runs the trains, and players can face Cactuar Johnny, a palette swap of the conductor with a red cap, as a DLC boss. In Chocobo Racing, the Cactuar is a secret character unlocked by beating the story mode 6 times. Unlike other characters, it doesn't ride in a vehicle, it runs around the track. Cactuar reappears in Chocobo GP as a secret character again, unlocked by completing the story mode and then replaying it on extra difficulty. The Cactuar now wears a booster pack around its waist to help in racing, and for its special attack grows giant-sized and gets a speed boost, and when transforming it fires a barrage of needles behind it at other racers. Cactuars are the focus of episode 21 in the anime Final Fantasy Unlimited. Their home has been destroyed by a wandering ocean, formed from the souls of those who died on the water, and the protagonists agree to destroy it and save them. Kaze summons Bismarck to try and destroy the wandering ocean, but it is too powerful. The Cactuars themselves destroy it by rapidly running around the water, condensing it into a pillar that is dispersed. As an iconic monster associated with Final Fantasy, Cactuars have appeared in many other franchises. They are playable in Mario Hoops 3-on-3 and Mario Sports Mix, appear in Dragon Quest X during a crossover event with Final Fantasy, and even make a cameo in Assassin's Creed Origins. In Kingdom Hearts, Cactuars appear as a gummy ship blueprint in all 3 numbered games. Thank you to everyone for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more lore Final Fantasy in the future, and stop by the community tab on my channel to vote on the next subject.